Hey everyone, this is Kevin Sharp. Today I'm joined by artist, writer, wrestling fan, man about town, Daniel Warren Johnson, whose new book from Image Comics is called The Moon is Following Us. DWJ, welcome to Comic Art Live. I know we got a lot of fans of your work watching right now. Pleasure to have
That's
you here.
amazing. Oh, I'm happy to be here. That's a really fun idea. And
You actually have chosen not only an artist and a title, but a country of origin that nobody has talked about yet on this series. So could you please let the viewers know what book we're diving into today?
yeah, I'm surprised that nobody has done a book from Japan. Masamune Shirow's Appleseed manga. There's like 4 volumes of story in Appleseed. So we're talking about the second volume in the Dark Horse way out of print edition, a little small Dark Horse one. It's of a battle between basically like a rogue cyborg and the bunny-eared robot slash cyborg Brarios.
Where would you have encountered this particular series slash issue in your reading journey?
I've been reading manga since I was a teenager. There were some things that were starting to get translated in the early 2000s when I would have been like really gotten exposed to it. But it wasn't, I did not really discover Shiro's work except for Ghost in the Shell, because they had translated Ghost in the Shell. It's one of the first things that came to the States. So that's really all I knew of his work. And I had really loved that art style. But to be totally honest, the story it did not really grab me. But after college and kind of like really dipping my toes in a big way into comics, I mean, I started to try and do comics professionally summer of 2012. And I started getting a deeper appreciation for the art form and trying to figure out how to bring energy and life into my images in a way that I really felt it was lacking. I was working on my webcomic Space Mullet at the time, and I was like having to draw these action scenes, and I'm like, everything looks so dead, like everything looks so still, even though they're doing actiony things. So I was kind of looking for artists that had a really dynamic, active style, and that's kind of when I really started rediscovering Masamune Shirow. And at that time, nobody really cared about Appleseed, so I kept finding it in comic book stores, like on the used bookshelf. I'm pretty sure when I bought this, there was like dust on the top because people just weren't really into it. And there's good reason. The story is incomprehensible, like full stop. I mean, there are people out there that will argue with me, and that's totally cool. I can't read this. I tried. He goes into these wild tangents about politics and like what kind of ammo type is in like each person's gun. It's just crazy. It's just not fun to read word wise. As long as you ignore the letters, the art is my absolute like he was my favorite manga artist, hands down. He has this dynamic style that I was really looking for. The main thing that I really loved him for was his action scenes, and that this page 168 in volume 2 just rocked me to my core.
As we're talking, the viewers will see the page
Okay,
on the
sweet.
screen.
One thing that I feel Shiro is specifically is really good at is taking a moment on a page and highlighting it so the page is almost like a mini story in of itself. There's very few pages I feel in Appleseed and a lot of Shiro stuff where the pages are not necessarily formed around a central visual idea. So the climax of this actual page is obviously at the bottom, with Brarios just wrecking this poor dude's face. He doesn't even go down. He's like still moves on the next page. But so the first panel we have a shot which I don't dislike this drawing, but it's not like anything special. We have like a little storytelling panel of like 2 characters fiddling with computer stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with this page. It's just a bit of a breakup, to get it to like a quick storytelling device. Be like, hey, they're doing that. Don't forget about that. Then we're right back to the action with a little bit of a slower panel, still fast, but there's a heaviness there, and the tick marks that you can see on the machinery on whatever it is, like that mechanical block that he's carrying, just really tickles me. He is also really good at motion. You can see Brarios running out of bullets, and he just hits his gun on the side of his like body there. And I love it's like you can tell it's like after the fact. So like he went in, he hit the guy, and he's back. He's like batoing, like it's after the batoing, which is such an interesting shot choice. And then to go from there to a follow up panel of him hitting the wall, which is like another little storytelling panel, not super sexy. An even less sexy panel of this tiny little inset of a hand grabbing this guy's head who's already near the wall. Then we've got the kill shot. There's so much detail, but it doesn't take away from the motion and the activity of that page because all of the panels that have come before are leading up to this big moment. So I also like to do the same thing. I like to have each page have something that's really fun to look at, that I can center the whole page around because I like to treat each page like a mini story, or like at least have something that people can kind of rest their eyes on and appreciate artistically on each page, so that the entire reading experience of a comic as a whole is super elevated. That's the goal. And Shirow is the king of that, and it's highlighted in this page.
I was going to ask if the version of you today looking at it can see what rocked the world of the version of you who first saw this.
That little inset panel, like the tiny panel, contrasted with the bit. This is a manga page, so all the panels are not big, but relatively, this is the biggest panel on the page. I use that all the time. So I would like to think, yes, like I am just openly taking from Shirow here, all the time. There's no big panel, big panel. It's like tiny, tiny panel, huge panel. That's like my style of storytelling, which I feel like is pretty on point, and it comes from Shirow. It really does.
I do have to hit you with the question for each guest, which is, do you own any original art, either from that book or from that artist?
I was like looking through because I do have a fairly big original art collection, and I was like, man, it'd be sweet if I had something that I actually owned. And there's plenty of amazing storytelling on my wall and in my like portfolio over here. I really wanted to pick something that was formative for me. That being said, not even close. I think in my whole life, I never say never. I don't think I will ever own a Shirow original. As far as I know, Japanese creators, when they finish these pages, they go into a vault somewhere and they never see the light of day. But I'm holding out hope. I have a dream of making a documentary series where I go and I visit a bunch of different visual artists all over the world, and Shirow will be on the short list. You heard it here first. Stranger things in this world have happened. I am going to meet Masamune Shirow someday. If he would do me like a little doodle of Barrios, like the crappiest little doodle, like literally 5 seconds, I would never ask because I would feel so ashamed. But actually, you know what? Screw it. I could just like play it off as like dumb American who like doesn't really know what he's. Hey, how's it going? Would you draw me Barrios? I'm happy to play the part of the dumbass just so I can get a Barrios sketch.
Well, on that note, let me turn it over to you to talk about now your own projects.
Yeah, so I have a book with Riley Rossimo, my co-creator, on an image book that just issue one just came out last month. It's called The Moon is Following Us. Thank you for mentioning it. Riley and I are splitting the art duties. There's two different worlds in this story, kind of like this fantastical, like sci-fi fantasy dream world where Riley's taking the art duties, and then there's the more grounded, have your coffee and eggs kind of normal world that I'm drawing, and we're tackling the art on like the same page, like on the same piece of paper. And Mike Spicer's coloring it. He's doing a great job. It's a very personal story. I'm still writing Transformers for Jorge Corona, who's drawing it now. Jason Howard is taking over two issues. He's going to draw issue 13 and 14 to give Jorge a little time to catch up for the rest of the third arc of Transformers. And we're doing a little bit of a Starscream backstory. The cover that I drew, my cover of issue 13, is of Starscream, like holding his battered arm, and there's like lava everywhere. I drew that cover live on YouTube, which you can find on Friday with D-Dubs. It's my YouTube channel live show. Every Friday I go live, and it was terrible. I had a terrible time making it. I was like really up against it. There was like, I don't know if I've ever used so much whiteout on a cover ever. And actually Mike Spicer colored it. He kind of saved my butt. But you get to see the messy creation of making stuff that like looks really great at the end of the road, but like on the actual travel can be a bit dicey. So come watch me fail is what I'm saying.
Thank you again for joining us and walking us through this page. As I said, there's a lot of fans of your work here in the audience, and we're always happy to have you on the channel.
Thank you to the audience for your wonderful support and for listening. And it's a total pleasure. This is super fun.